Vibez Kartel, born Adidja Palmer, is one of dancehall's most influential and controversial figures, known for his lyrical genius and raw, unfiltered depiction of street life. But the same streets that fueled his rise to fame also led to his downfall. Kartel was convicted in 2014 for the murder of Clive "Lizard" Williams, a case that shook the dancehall community and revealed the dark side of his street ties. He wasn't just an artist. Kartel was a force of nature, charismatic, unapologetically real, and deeply embedded in the gritty realities of Kingston's underworld. His music reflected the struggles and triumphs of the ghetto, but his street credibility and connections eventually caught up with him, leading to a life sentence behind bars. Just when everyone thought it was a wrap, Kartel pulled off one of the craziest comebacks in the history of the streets. Let's dive into how Kartel managed to get out of prison and shock the world. First things first, let's talk about how Kartel even got to this point. Born Adidja Palmer, Kartel was more than just an artist. He was the voice of the streets. He came up in the gritty neighborhoods of Kingston, Jamaica, and he brought that raw energy into his music. From early hits like Clark's and Romping Shop to anthems like Dancehall Hero, Kartel became the king of dancehall, and everybody knew it. But with that fame came the heat. Police started watching his every move, and rumors of his street ties began to circulate.
No, Vibez Kartel has no social responsibility, but to deliver good quality music because I'm an entertainer. And all of this is entertainment.
In 2011, things took a serious turn. Kartel was arrested and charged with the murder of Clive "Lizard" Williams, a man who was allegedly beaten to death over some missing guns. The case was messy from the start. Witnesses were shaky, evidence was questionable, and the whole thing seemed like a setup. But the court wasn't playing around. After a long and controversial trial, Kartel was found guilty in 2014 and sentenced to life in prison, with no chance of parole for 35 years. For most people, that would have been game over. But Kartel, he's built different. Even from behind bars, he was still dropping tracks, still influencing the culture, and still maintaining his status as the world boss. But while the music kept flowing, the fight to clear his name never stopped.
Mentally, I've always been in a good place because I know I'm innocent and I know I'm coming out. Yeah, of course I believe that. And to be totally honest, the system really wanted me thrown away. It was never about me being charged for a murder. It was about getting rid of Vibez Kartel, not Adidja Palmer, the person.
Kartel's legal team wasn't about to let him rot in prison without a fight. They knew there were holes in the prosecution's case, and they were determined to expose them. First off, the main piece of evidence against Kartel was a series of text messages that allegedly linked him to the crime. But here's the thing, those messages were highly suspect. The defense argued that they were tampered with, altered to fit the prosecution's narrative. And it wasn't just some wild theory. The phones used as evidence had passed through several hands, including police custody, before being presented in court. In a country like Jamaica, where corruption is a known issue, that raised a lot of red flags. Then there were the witnesses. The key witness in the case was a man named Lamar Chow, who claimed he saw Kartel and his crew murder Clive "Lizard" Williams. But Chow's testimony was shaky at best. He changed his story multiple times, and there were even rumors that he was pressured by the police to testify against Kartel. On top of that, there were other witnesses who claimed that Lizard was seen alive after the supposed time of the murder, which threw even more doubt on the prosecution's case. Kartel's lawyers kept pushing, filing appeals and challenging the conviction at every turn. They weren't just fighting for his freedom, they were fighting to prove that the entire case was built on lies and corruption. And after years of legal battles, it started to look like their hard work was paying off.
Why do you say the system is out to get you?
Because they told us, they say we have too much influence. If you remember when Movado and I had that little feud a few years ago, we even went to King's house, which is like the home of the Prime Minister. And they were telling us that, oh, we're leading the kids astray, and if we don't stop what we're doing, we're not going to get any permission to do shows and stuff like that. So it has always been about the influence.
In 2020, Kartel caught a major break. The Jamaican Court of Appeal finally agreed to hear his case, and the defense team came in swinging. They laid out all the inconsistencies in the prosecution's case, from the dodgy text messages to the unreliable witness testimony. They argued that Kartel didn't get a fair trial and that his conviction should be overturned. The judges took their time reviewing the evidence, and for a while it felt like the whole world was holding its breath. Dancehall fans, street hustlers, and even other artists were all waiting to see what would happen next. Would the world boss finally get justice? Or was he going to be left to rot behind bars? And then the unthinkable happened. In April 2020, the Court of Appeal reduced Vibez's sentence from life to 32.5 years, with the possibility of parole after 22 years. It wasn't the full victory his team had hoped for, but it was a huge step forward. Kartel was now eligible for parole much earlier than expected, and that gave his team the momentum they needed to keep fighting.
I don't mean the system, because the system did run right from initially. How did they have prison? Because think about this. Them send me to prison for circumstantial evidence, at best, which was tampered with. Circumstantial evidence, that alone can't send nobody to prison. Plus the evidence tampered with.
But the story doesn't end there. Nah, this is where things get really wild. While the legal team was preparing for another appeal, something unexpected happened. Kartel walked out of prison. Word on the street is that some high-powered connections and behind-the-scenes negotiations led to his early release. The details are murky and nobody's talking on record. But one thing is clear: Kartel is a free man. The news spread like wildfire. Social media exploded. Dancehall fans went crazy, and the streets were buzzing with excitement. How did this even happen? How did the man who was supposed to be locked up for life manage to beat the system and get back to the streets?
How this freedom feel like? Yeah, man, because I tell you something, I still can't process it. When I wake up in the morning, I say, yo, I wait for the key sheet.
Since his release, Kartel hasn't wasted any time. He's back in the studio, back in the spotlight, and back to doing what he does best, dominating the dancehall scene. He's been dropping new music, linking up with other artists, and reminding everyone why he's the world boss. But there's still that mystery hanging over his release. How did he pull it off? Who made the calls? And what's next for Kartel? One thing's for sure, Kartel is a living legend, and his story isn't over yet. Whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny his impact on the game. From the streets of Kingston to the world stage, Vibez has proven time and time again that he's a force to be reckoned with. And now that he's back, the world better be ready for what's coming next.